Our next question, we know that most or all of you would like to see changes in the federal health care reform legislation, and we'll refrain from discussing that in particular, but instead assume for a minute that the legislation is not changed. What can the state of Maine do to make health care work better under the new law? We'll start with Mr. Beardsley.
First, we have 110,000 government employees. Most of them don't have any options. Every government employee should have a choice of several options, including medical savings accounts. Second of all, I think obviously we need to get rid of Derigo, which is expensive. In the private sector, we would have cut it loose long before. I find the whole process of certificate of need seems to be more focused on constraint of trade and limits the dispersion of health services into rural areas, and I think that needs a serious overhaul. I think we need to, as they do in places like Idaho, that pharmacists can give prescriptions under certain areas. I think what you need to really do is spread out our ability to give primary care to nurse practitioners, physician assistants, and others. So I think there's a range, but mostly it's in reintroducing competition the way we did with workers' comp to bring costs down.
Mr. LePage? Excuse me. Mr. Jacobson.
Okay. You want to go?
I'm just trying to keep you on your toes.
Yes, ma'am. You got my attention.
Thank you.
How do we reduce the cost of health care in Maine under this regime and under the old one? There's 2 or 3 things we need to do. Maine has mandates. We have the most mandates of any state in the country, meaning that if you buy an insurance policy in Maine, the state decides what you have to be covered for. We don't do that with car insurance. I suspect you and I have different car insurance companies and different collision and deductible and all the rest. We're trusted to make those choices, but not on health care. Let me tell you how silly it is. My son goes to Cathedral School in Portland. He's a spirited lad, and the nuns are good for him. The nuns that teach him are forced to carry maternity coverage. Why? Because every policy in Maine has to have that. We got to reduce those mandates. We got to fix Maine Care. And when I get more time next time, maybe we talk a little bit about Maine Care and why that costs you more money for your health insurance.
Mr. LePage.
First of all, Derigo has to go. I mean, it was a great experiment. I commend the governor for at least trying something. But after a couple of years when we saw it was failing, he should have pulled the plug. It's on life support now, and I would pull the plug. I believe community rating is bad for the state of Maine. I think, as Les said earlier in his opening, that we really need to encourage our youth to get health insurance. And you don't with the current rate structure that we have in the state of Maine. I mean, if you all remember back when you were 18, you all felt immortal. You all felt that you didn't need insurance and you never get sick. And that's how they feel today. And it's unaffordable. So we need to work on making health insurance affordable. The other thing is we need to go over state lines. We need to be able to buy state lines, and we need to be able to buy a la carte. I think Matt's absolutely correct. Nuns do not need maternity insurance, and if they do, they're probably going to leave the order anyways. Thank you.
Mr. Mills.
Maine's healthcare costs have been very high and trending higher since 1991 when we passed both guaranteed issue and very rigid community rating bands. Interestingly enough, the federal law does as much the same thing to the whole rest of the country. So we just have to wait for them to be as expensive as we are, and we won't be at a disadvantage any longer. That's tongue-in-cheek. 17% of the gross national product of America and about 22% of Maine's gross state product goes for health care. The rest of the world is somehow able to do it for 9 or 10%, and they cover everybody. This is the same thing, really, as a 7 or 8% sales tax on every single good and service that we produce in America. The biggest single challenge our governor will have next year will be to bring health care costs under control, because the bill in Congress didn't do it. It's going to be up to the states to do it, and Maine should lead the way on it.
Mr. Otten.
Clearly, what was done in Washington is not going to benefit Maine. The number one thing that will benefit Maine will be competition. In New Hampshire, 13 companies are writing insurance, and in Maine, 1 is writing insurance. Transparency, being able to see what your costs are, and competition are key to driving down health costs. And we need a high-risk pool. In New Hampshire, they've replaced Dirigo with a high-risk pool that 3,400 people take part in. And as again I told you, the average 30-year-old is saving about $6,000. But most importantly, at the top of everyone's list, and it should have been at the top of Obama's list as well, we need to be talking about wellness. 60 to 70% of all our health care costs in America are avoidable, and there's not one word of it in the federal legislation, and there hasn't been talk of it in Maine, and we can get there in Maine. We can be healthier, and that can be the key to driving down costs in Maine.
As Republicans, all of you either favor a reduction in... I'm sorry, excuse me. I should let you answer the questions. Why don't we go through? Mr. Abbott, go right ahead.
First of all, Maine should join and or lead the effort to repeal and replace the current federal law. Second of all, Maine should eliminate Dirigo. Third of all, we should take our Dirigo population and our Maine care population and put them into a managed care situation. That's how you could control costs. And if we partnered with our hospitals and our system providers, I think that we could help deliver more efficient care as well as we did that. I agree with Les that we need a high-risk pool. We need to be able to purchase insurance across state lines. And it's also important that we let small businesses pool together more easily to buy insurance. That helps you get larger numbers, and that's what we did with workers' comp. It worked very successfully, and I think would help with health insurance as well.